Hello, and welcome back. My name is John Humphreys. I am with the Australian Taxpayers Alliance, and as promised, we'll be bringing you a couple of live streams every week between now and the election, going through all things politics, all things policy. Normally, I would have a trusty outsider here with me, one of these sides, Brian Marlow. Brian Marlow can't make it today. Oh, can I cancel that plan? Brian's not here with us this evening, but I will stumble forward somehow, and I figured I would take this opportunity to talk through more boffiny, mathsy, pointy-headed stuff that otherwise might send poor old Brian to sleep. But if you're interested in that, you can stick with me here, and if not, then not. We're going to look at the Senate, how Senate voting works, what the makeup of the Senate is, what it is likely to be, and where can it go. So that's what we're going to do. Last Monday, I tried to talk it through a little bit, but without any whiteboards or graphs or would be. So this time I'm going to make you all suffer through sharing this beautifully ugly Excel spreadsheet as we talk it through. And hopefully that helps it to make some sense as we go forward. But anyway, Australian Taxpayers Alliance, that's who I'm with. If you'd like to join, you can go to that website down there, taxpayers.org.au, have a look around. Sign up to the campaigns we're working on, and if you're so inclined, please consider joining. It's a couple of bucks a month. Helps us keep the lights on. So this is live. This is being simulcast, Facebook, YouTube, and X, both the Australian Taxpayers Alliance channel and my own. Please give it a like. Please give it a share. Follow us on all those platforms. But with no further ado, diving. Oh, and I should say, feel free to leave your comments. Feel free to join the chat. There you go. Thank you, Liberty Tyrant. Good to see you again. Look, and I'll be going through some of the permutations of what the Senate could look like. And as I'm going through it, if you want me to try out things as we're going through on the Excel spreadsheet, you have some ideas going through live, just shout them out and we can try all the different permutations as we go. But let's see how this works. Just me solo monologuing about the nature of the Senate. Here's the context. The election's coming up, federal election. You probably know that if you're listening to this, but nearly all of the focus is, as is so often the case, and understandably, on the House of Representatives, right? We've got a bicameral system, so there's two houses. There's the House of Reps, there's the Senate, and most of the focus is on the House. 150 people are elected to the House. Whichever party gets the most of those can get 76, because you need a majority of one. So whichever party can get 76, or at least the support of 76 people, can then form government, and the leader of that party is our prime minister. So that's the main focus here, Liberal versus Labor. And even if it's a hung parliament, who are the independents going to support, Liberal or Labor? Spoiler, the Teals will all support Labor, but that's anyway. That's the main focus, understandably so. And we turned it into a bit of a presidential style campaign, Dutton versus Albanese, and that's very normal. But of course, if they ever want to pass legislation, they have to pass it through both houses. They only have to control the House of Reps to become the government. But then they're just sitting around saying, I'm the government, getting a bigger payday, nicer cars, nicer offices. But if they ever want to pass legislation, they still need to pass it through both houses, right? The House and the Senate. And so there is much less attention given to the Senate. I thought we would help redress that balance a little bit in this show. So today I'm going to get quite explicit and unpack some of what we can expect going forward in the Senate race, or in the current Senate makeup and the potential future Senate makeup. So just other housekeeping while we wait for more people to come in, explaining that I understand if you're watching this, you are if you're watching this, you probably understand this already. So please don't feel insulted that I'm telling you stuff that you already know, but just a context setter. When you get the ballot, when you go into vote, you'll have two ballots, right? And you'll have one little one, it'll be green. That's voting in the House of Reps, and whichever party wins the majority in that greenhouse forms government. And then you'll have the longer ballot, really a big ballot with a bunch of different parties listed along the top, and that's for the Senate. And with the lower house, little green ballot, you have to fill in all the numbers. With the Senate ballot, you only have to fill up to 6. Dirty little secret is you only have to fill up to 1, right? If you vote 1, they still count your vote, but you're not allowed to encourage people to do that. So let's pretend we don't know that. But here's the actual best piece of advice. You should number as many parties as you have a preference between. right? So you don't need to stop at 6, and you shouldn't, right? The best way to maximize the value of your vote is keep voting while you still have a preference. That doesn't mean you have to like them. So you might like 6 parties, you vote for 6 parties. Then the 7th party, just say it's, there's cannabis and animals and greens left. You might not want to vote for any, but you might think, well, cannabis legalization is a lot better than the greens. If that's your opinion, you should put in cannabis 7 and animals 8 and greens 9, whatever your order is. You might think, I don't like Labor or the Greens, but if you prefer Labor to the Greens, then put in Labor. You don't have to vote the last one, the one you hate the most, you don't have to vote for. But the reason to do that is to make sure if all else fails, your vote helps stop the person you hate the most. Right? So if all else fails, your vote can help stop the person you hate the most by putting everyone else on your preference list. But anyway, the Senate is elected somewhat differently than the House in a couple of ways. One is it's a state-by-state thing. The other one is it uses proportional representation. Now, this is quite important in terms of why it matters for the Senate, right? In the House, you're good electorates, like you might be in Brisbane or Bowman or Lyons or whatever the name is of your area. There's 100,000 people voting. Whoever wins is your representative. There you go. There you go. This is your primer then, catching you up on what it all means. That's your representative. With the Senate, you don't have a single representative for your area, your whole state, and you elect 6 at the same time. So 6 at once from each state, 6 from Queensland, 6 from New South Wales. Now there's actually 12 from each state. Now, I'm not getting confused and contradicting myself. The point is, if you're elected to the Senate, you're elected for 2 terms. So we elect 6 senators for Queensland now, and then they stay in for 2 terms. The next election, we elect another 6. The election after that, the ones we elect today are up for re-election, right? So it's 6 elected per state per election, but then you're elected for 2 terms, so it adds up to 12 per state. So that's the trick. And the thing is, if you're electing 6 at one time, you don't need 50% of the vote to win. Right? In a House race, you do. You need 50% of the vote to win. In the Senate, you only need a quota, and a quota is 14.3%. So if you can get 14.3%, you win a Senate spot. And often that means if you can get 6 or 7 or 8% and then pick up some preferences, then you can get into the Senate. And that's why the Senate has much more representation from the smaller parties. It's much more manageable to get in. And that's why it's much harder for the government of the day to pass legislation through the Senate, because they might control the House of Reps, but they're not necessarily going to control the Senate because there's going to be a few little parties in there and a few independents or someone you don't expect, right? So that's why it's kind of important to look at how this Senate's going to unpack, so we can see if Dutton does win, is he going to be able to pass anything, full stop, right? Is it just game over? Is he just sitting there for 3 years? It doesn't matter if he has a majority in the lower house. If he can't pass one piece of legislation, then what are we doing for 3 years, right? So this kind of does matter if you're worried about the policy direction of this country. If you just think it's vibe and you don't like Albanese's face and you like Dutton's face, sure, great, you get to change the face. But if you want to change direction, eventually someone has to change a policy somewhere. And so we'll have to see who's going to be controlling the Senate. So to do that, I've put together a gloriously ugly little Excel spreadsheet here to try and allow us to, let's see if I can make this bigger. Probably can't for you, but I can make it bigger for me. Yeah, Roy, you have to pass legislation to get rid of it. I mean, that's the thing. I agree. I'd love to get rid of a lot of laws. The only way to get laws is to pass a piece of legislation saying, I abolish that law. Like if you want to, the anti-free speech laws that have come in recently, if you want to wind those back, you have to pass legislation. So if they don't control the Senate, then it only gets wound back if you can get the Greens or Labor to agree, which, you only have to say that aloud to realize the trouble we're going to be in, right? It's the laws don't go away on their own. It'd be great if they did. We should have sunset clauses, but that's a topic for another day. But at the moment, if you want to get rid of the bad laws, you're going to have to pass a piece of legislation. And for that, you need to pass it through the Senate. All right, so this is what I've set up here for us to look at. Now, each column represents a state. So you can see right here, this is New South Wales, and they elect 6 people. Each one of those squares is a person being elected. Victoria elects 6, Queensland, WA, South Australia, Tasmania. Now the territories elect 2 each, right? And they actually aren't elected for 2 terms. They're only elected for 1 term at a time. But we'll talk about that if we talk about it, but that's not the most interesting thing here. So as a general rule, this is a good rule of thumb when you start approaching looking at the Senate, right? So there's 6 being elected each time. The norm is you'll have 3 right of center right, and 3 on the left. So here, this is just a cliche. This is not an actual example, right? This one I've just put in to give a cliche example of how it might work in theory. This is just an example set. So 3 Liberal, 2 Labor, and 1 Green. And that actually is often how it goes. I mean, that actually is the truth for New South Wales at the moment. So it's it's not purely a hypothetical. But this is, if you look at this one here, so I've got this as the code: Liberal, Labor, Green, One Nation. The minor right, I've just bundled all the other minor rights together. So like UAP, Libertarians, Trumpets, People First, whatever else you have. And then minor left, so cannabis, animals, I put in there POCOC. And then other, that's ones that I can't easily classify left or right. So primarily what that means in the context of Australian Senate is Jackie Lambie and Tammy Tyrrell from Tasmania. But that's the code. But I mean, most of the senators come from the top 3. And as you can see here, the norm, the expectation would be roughly the Libs get 3 per state. So they would then add up, that would add up to, what's that, 18 plus 2 territories, so that's 20. You can see over here. So it's roughly what they'd need if they wanted to be able to try and pass legislation on their own. And Labor gets 2 out of 3 of the left-wing ones, and the Greens get 1 out of 3 of the left-wing ones. That didn't used to be like that, but that's the new normal now, with the Greens consistently picking up those spots. So you can see what that gets us here is 20 Liberal, 14 Labor, 6 Green. And that adds up to 40 senators being elected. Now there's 40 being elected now. There are 36 continuing from the last election. Right, that adds up to 76, and 76 is the number of senators we have, 76. Right, and so these are the continuing senators. I can go over here to jump forward to the next one. This is just showing you last election, 2022. Ignore the territories because they get re-elected each time. But the last election, 2022, Labor had quite a good one because they won government. This is what it looked like. So remember, of course, these top 3 are the ones you'd expect to go to a right of center party. So every time they don't, it's going to be really difficult to imagine ever having a right-wing government pass laws. And these bottom 3 would be normally expected to roughly go to a left of center party. So if one of those goes to a right-wing party, then it'll be very tough for Labor to ever pass laws. And then conversely, it would be easy for the Liberals to pass. But as you can see here, all of these nominally left-wing Senate spots all went to a lefty. Again, mostly Labor along these 2 lines, and then mostly Greens. And then you've got here 2 minor left, but this one here was actually elected Labor. That's Fatima Payment in WA. And this one was actually elected Green. That's Lydia Thorpe. And they just switched. They quit their parties and became left-wing independents. So you can see Labor's actually in the last election, they ran all of the Senate spots they were expected to get. Good for them. And they picked up an extra one. All right, so 4 left-wing spots in WA, only 2 right-wing spots. Remember, out of 6, there's 6, you'd expect it to go 3-3. By the way, that means 6 in Chinese sign language, so that's why I'll use that. If you see me doing that, it means 6. But so normally you'd expect it to go 3-3, but in WA last time it went 4-2. And what that means is the Liberals are just going to be behind the 8 ball. I mean, they're stuck with that. We're stuck with, there are 14 Liberals, 17 Labor plus Green. Or if I've split it up down here between right-leaning and left-leaning, the norm would be they would split 18-18. The left actually has 19. So they're sitting pretty to potentially be able to pass legislation, and they have been, right? They've been able to pass legislation. And the coalition here, 16. That means they're 2 behind, just breaking even. And then you got Tammy Tyrrell, which no one really knows what her politics are yet, but she could be the decider. If they were split sort of 18-18, then she would be the decider. But they're not. So the coalition is behind. So this is a tough starting point. There is nothing this election that can be done to improve that. This is what we're facing. This is what we're facing. These are the people up for election this time around. So this situation came roughly out of the 2019 election. and now it's been 2 terms since then, so all of these senators are up for re-election. So you can see, just starting here, these ones were supposed to be, nominally they're the right of center ones, and you see they kind of mostly are. So you can see there's 2 here that are put in as minor right instead of liberal. Both of those were elected as liberals. I mean, this is it David Van? Might have his first name wrong, but Senator Van was elected as a liberal. He's probably going to disappear, so that'll go back to the liberals. And this one here is Jared Rennick. So you see that they actually did pretty well across here. Unfortunately, in Tasmania, they didn't pick up the necessary 3rd right-wing spot. That one went to Jackie Lambie, who's running again this time around. And you can see for the Labor spots, they mostly went Labor Green, as you expect, but Malcolm Roberts, last time around, 2019, 2 elections ago, Malcolm Roberts. So you got 3 Liberals plus a One Nation. So it went 4-2 to the right in Queensland. 4-2, which is exactly, what is with those balloons? What do they think this means? Does anyone know that? Like, why would 24 or 42 mean happy birthday? Anyway, so as you saw in the last graph, continuing from the 2022 election, WA went very well for the left. Left picked up 4, and the right picked up 2. And it was a reverse situation in Queensland from the 2019 election. But this one is up for grabs now. So this is going to be a tough Senate for the right. I mean, I think there is a very real chance that Dutton becomes Prime Minister and he cannot pass anything without the support of either Labor or the Greens. Again, and the best case scenario might be that they might be able to pass legislation with the support of Lydia Thorpe and Fatima Payman. But there's been a lot of crying and gnashing of teeth about the importance of this election. And it's important in terms of being able to stop really stupid things being done. But as we go through this, we'll go through the different permutations. You're going to see it's hard to get to a situation where the coalition is going to be able to pass any laws, at least for another 3 years. There's going to be doing not a lot and then waiting for 2028 in the hope that they can improve the Senate yet again. So anyway, this is the situation we're in now, where we've got a total of 30. You can see that. Can you see that? Okay. There you go. A total of 30 for the LNP. I've called them Liberal, whether they're Liberal or National, but you know what I mean. 25 for Labor. So it looks like Liberals are doing better, but of course, as you've seen here, you've got to kind of add Labor to Green to understand the balance. So Greens have 11. So together they've got 36. Now the crucial number in the Senate, if you want to pass anything, you need 39. So 39 is the magic number. They see they've got 36, but then we've got here 2 One Nation, 3 minor right, 3 minor left. So if you add together Labor, the Greens, and the minor left, as I do down here, 39. Hence why Labor has been able to pass legislation most of the time, unless someone like David Pocock stands up and says no. Then Labor's able to run it. I mean, they don't require any support from someone from a centrist, a Lambie, or from the right. They don't have to build bridges. They can get things through with just the vote of the left. The minor left here being Thorpe, Payman, and Pocock. So that's the dangerous situation we're in now. Let's go to the next one. Let's start looking at predictions for what's going to be. So in terms of predictions, I'm just starting here with the status quo. Now, a couple of ones we can start. So if you're looking over on the right, these ones are continuing. There's nothing we can do about them. They're just locked in. Those senators aren't leaving. These are the ones that we can potentially change. So if all the current senators just got re-elected exactly as is, then that would be here, 16 Liberal, 13 Labor, 6 Greens, 1 One Nation, 2 minor right, 1 minor left, it's David Pocock, and 1 other, that's Jackie Lambie. And then you'd end up with the exact same system we have now, with 39 lefties. So the left is able to pass things through the Senate, 35 on the right. So if this happened, then if Dutton was able to convince Jackie Lambie and Tammy Tyrrell, he could get up to 37. He would then have to convince 2 Greens or two of the minor left, like Lydia Thorpe and Fatima Payman. So you can just see, just saying that aloud, it is not a likely proposition unless what they are doing is something very stupid, which that's the dangerous thing. I mean, the Liberals will think of stupid things to do, and then the Greens will support them. But as you can see here, it's at least on these numbers where things currently are, they would struggle to pass. But let's see what we can change. Let's see what is actually likely to happen here and which ones we can move around. Now, first thing, actually, I can go through these state by state. Well, I might just give this one back, because I think one of the first things that's likely to happen here is that Van is going to lose his seat probably to a Liberal. That one goes back to where it came from. Let's say, let's go through. Let's just run the best case scenario. So the best case scenario would be, well, that's fine. Jared Rennick can win that, or he can go back to the Liberals. It doesn't really matter in terms of the number of right-wing spots. Now, here is, I'll say this one early then. My predictor for the unexpected outcome is I actually think we are going to get Pocock and a Liberal in the ACT. So the ACT last time went 2 left-wing senators. Right? Normally it's just Liberal Labor. The senatorial election is normally very boring. One Liberal, one Labor, one Liberal, one Labor every time, fall asleep. Last time in the ACT, they had one Labor. You see here, they had a Labor, and then Pocock, a Teal, minor left, and no Liberal. Right? So, and then people have been commenting, well, if there's a swing back to the Liberals, they might get it back off Pocock. Sure, I mean, that could happen. I think what's actually more likely to happen is if there's a swing to the Liberals, it'll come at the expense of Labor, and Pocock will still get elected on the back of Greens' preferences. Labor will miss out, and the Liberals get over the line in the ACT. So there's an interesting one. And then from here, as you can see, we've got in total here still 36, which means even with Lambie and Tyrrell, they're still only on 38. They still can't pass any legislation without support of a lefty, without support of the Greens or Lydia Thorpe or Fatima Payman. It is still a very difficult road to hoe for the coalition if they're going to try and pass any legislation with that situation. So what could they go for? Try to pick up another state? It's hard to imagine how any of these, we'll go through the numbers state by state. It's really hard to imagine how any of these sort of the marginal left-wing seats flip other than Queensland. The only other thing they could potentially do is if Jackie Lambie's vote shrinks. Right? There's no sign of Jackie Lambie's vote shrinking, but if it did, they could potentially steal that one, or maybe. Yeah. So that there is about the best case scenario, and that case scenario there. We'll see. We'll see if we can squint and there's anything we can do to make that better. But that seems like the best they could hope for. And even then, I got to say, I think what might happen is South Australia's third Liberal will go One Nation. But that doesn't change the total right-wing numbers there, right? So there's still 37, and then Tammy Tyrrell brings you up to 38. Yeah, let me know if you see a way through. I mean, I'm struggling to actually see a way through there that ever allows the coalition to pass anything. It's so close. Yeah, well, I mean, 38 is close to 39, but I was just checking the comments here when it comes to politics Australia. A question from America, it seems. When it comes to politics, are the major urban centres dominated by the Labor Party? We call them the Labor Party, our Democrat Party. And one thing to keep in mind, Australia is very urbanized. I know it's a big spread out country, but nearly everyone lives in our big cities to a ridiculous degree. We're one of the most urbanized countries in the world. So yes, the rural areas tend to vote for our Republicans, so our coalition, our Liberal National Coalition. But that wouldn't be enough. So it's often the suburbs that determine things, the outer suburbs of our big sprawling cities that then swing back towards our right-wing party. But yes, the inner cities are often left-leaning. Just checking any other comments came through. A high court can be used to kill bad laws. Theoretically, it basically never happens. I mean, the High Court has been used to block good laws, The High Court has been used to centralize taxes to the federal government so that they can increase taxes and get away with it. I can't think of many examples where the High Court has been used effectively in this country, being Australia, to actually knock down bad laws. The High Court has interpreted the Constitution very broadly, so you could drive a truck through it, and the federal government can get away with nearly everything. So that would be nice to think. The problem is, of course, that the people who run our legal system are not very friendly to the sort of politics that most people listening to the channel would be interested in. So the idea of just trusting a bunch of left-wing lawyers and bureaucrats to please be nice. If we're leaving our freedom in the hands of those lawyers and bureaucrats, we may not have that freedom for as long as you'd like. Killing the king doesn't help because he has no power in our country. Although, I mean, I'm not going to spend too many time crying tears over the king either. But no, eventually we need to win government and then use that power properly to shrink the government and shrink the bureaucrat class and shrink the bureaucrat, media, academic elite's control over the dynamics and future of our country and their control over the institutions. But anyway, look, that's the usual rant that you probably have heard me say, and I still agree with all that. But today, for better or worse, you're stuck with us trying to go through the Senate numbers. So let me go back state by state and let's see what is A, the more realistic outcome, and B, if there's any way that we can squint and look at this sideways and turn all the numbers upside down and shake the Excel spreadsheet until we can squeeze out an extra right-wing seat somewhere. Because as things currently stand, it's you only get to pass legislation if you ask the Greens nicely and they say yes, which is a shocker. So let's go through state by state. So this is New South Wales from the last election. So the parties, Labor, right, Liberal and National, Labor, Greens, One Nation, the minor right are bundled together, UAP Libertarians, the minor left, and other, the few that don't really fit anywhere else. And this was the vote they got in the Senate in New South Wales last time around. So remember, in the Senate, you don't need 50% here. You need, did I put it up in the, I put it here, right? 14.3, that's the magic number. 14.3, or if you get 28.6, you get 2, because that's 2 times 14.3. Yeah, 43% if you want to get 3 people in. So let's have a look. Straight away with the initial votes last time round, Liberals straight away get 2. I'll say both of those are winning votes. So straight away, the LNP got 2 in New South Wales. Straight away, Labor got 2. As you see here, that's what I call these top 2 rows are pretty much always locked for a right-wing party, and these bottom 2 are nearly always locked for some sort of left-wing party. So this is a pretty unsurprising start to the proceedings. The Greens don't quite have enough on their own. Now let's take out these quotas and look at the leftover. So this is the race, right? I mean, the first 2 get elected straight away. The first 4, right? 4 out of 6, 2 Liberal, 2 Labor, get elected straight away. Very boring part of the race. But then you've got the race for the last 2 spots, and that's where it can get fun. Now, of course, you'd expect one of those last 2 spots to go to a right-leaning party and one to a left-leaning party, but that can sometimes change. So this is what happened last time. In the race for those last 2 spots, you had the Greens on 11.5, still short of the needed 14.3, and then you had the Liberals on 8.2, and that ended up being enough, right? They picked up preferences, and that ended up being enough. Labor on 1.9, nowhere near it. You can't win with 1.9. One Nation on 4.1 wasn't enough. If you put all of the minor right together, this is an interesting thing. You'll see this time and time again. If you put all of the minor right together, 8.3, you'll notice that's bigger than 8.2. Also, if you put One Nation and the minor right together, that is 12 point, it looks like 12.4. It's 12.5 if you factor in the rounding. You'll see down here. So you can see if One Nation and the minor right were all running together in New South Wales, and the votes actually did some, right? That's not necessarily true, but if they did, if you could add them all together, then they would have got enough for a senator, right? So then you would have had a minor right or One Nation senator in New South Wales. But instead, what you had is the third Liberal got over the line and the Green, right? And so 3 to 1. Now, what I'm thinking is that for this year, of course, it's not going to be just a rerun of last year. This is where we have to pontificate and philosophize. Let's philosophize together what the potential swing is going to be in New South Wales. And at this point, I'm happy to take suggestions. I just chucked in here a 3% swing away from Labor which goes to the Liberals, One Nation, and the minor right. I see no evidence of a big swing for or against the Greens at this point. They very easily picked up one in each state last time. I think they'll very easily pick up one in each state this time. So I think the left side of this equation is quite boring. The Greens nearly always will get one, and because they do, the minor left can't. Right? The only thing here could be if cannabis increases their vote enough and eats into the vote of the Greens, they could steal a Green spot, which I'd love to see, but I suspect is unlikely. We could keep an eye on that. But if the Greens keep a vote around there, then they'll pretty much always get one in, and they'll do it by picking up the leftovers of the minor left preferences, which means they're never going to win. So if we change up the vote here, Labor goes down by 3. Now, they already had no chance. Now they've even got less chance, minus 1.1. They'll still get their second senator. So Labor still gets their second senator. The Greens still get their senator. So you still have 3 lefty senators there. It's hard to see how New South Wales doesn't return 3 lefty senators, unless there's a bigger swing down there. So that's, we could toy around with that. And if there's a swing to the Liberals, they won 3 last time. If there's a swing to them, it's hard to see how they don't win 3 again. So let's try, if there's a 5% swing against Labor, and 3 of that goes to One Nation, I still don't see who One Nation can beat. I mean, it's, you have to say, that's still 11.2% going to Labor's second. What would you have to get that down to? Maybe -6? If there's a -6 or a -7, then Labor's number 2 starts to become vulnerable. And that could get interesting. Then you could get potentially a minor right. So you could get a Craig Kelly. That could be for in New South Wales. The minor right collection was already bigger than One Nation. If they both pick up some extra votes, 10.3, that could mean they could get over the top of the Liberals, potentially. I mean, that would be the standard assumption for how it could be done. Or if Labor goes down by 6%, it's hard to see that. Maybe. I mean, maybe that's where we can live in hope that Craig Kelly or One Nation can steal a vote, the second Labor vote. So as I'm going through this, if you're thinking of a swing that I could put in here, if you want to see what it would look like with that swing, let me just make sure you guys are following me along with this. So this is the actual votes they got last time around. This is how many people got full quotas. So straight away, 2 Liberals elected, 2 Labor elected, put them aside. This is the actual vote. This is the race now, right? Everyone's racing to try to get to 14.3 or at least higher than everyone else when everyone else gets knocked out. Now, what swing do they think there's going to be this year? And then that was the race 3 years ago. That's what the race might be this year if we factor in some swings. So, all right, I think the best case scenario here is if we could get Labor down to 1. All right. So if there's a 6% swing away from Labor, don't worry about that, just ignore all that. So there's a 6% swing away from Labor, then they'd be down to 10.2. Greens would still beat them. Would Craig Kelly beat them? The problem there is that most of the preferences being distributed are going to be coming from the minor left. So I struggle to see how Labor can lose their second spot in New South Wales. Right, even at a 6% swing, it's going to be, we're going to chuck in an 8% swing. With an 8% swing, I can start to see it. But even then, I mean, the minor left vote is going to be going to Labor before it goes to One Nation. No, I'm sorry. I'm disagreeing with myself here, arguing with myself. You guys can try and come in and join one side of the arguments. I can't see how New South Wales goes any other way than roughly this. So, but the potential for a minor right taking this spot, But I guess the kumbaya would be that they could do that. But Liberals take 3. Craig Kelly steals it off the Labor. I guess if the Labor vote absolutely implodes, but I'm struggling to see it. That still seems very likely the outcome for New South Wales, with some chance that Craig Kelly could try and steal that third Liberal spot. But that doesn't change the left-right balance. All right, let's check out Victoria then. Victoria, how does Victoria look? Once again, Liberals, Labor, Greens, One Nation, minor right, minor left, and the other. You can see the votes. Once again, Liberal and Labor both got over 30. They get over 30, which means they get 2 senators elected each straight away. And now everyone else, the rest of the parties are in that race for the last 2 spots, realistically at 13.9. The Greens only just fell short. So the Greens are getting that 5th spot. Lock it in, give it to them. So it's 1 spot left. And last time around, that spot was the only one that went to the minor right. So you can see in this race for the last spot, you had 8.9% to the minor right, 2.9 to One Nation, 3.7 to the Liberals. And this 8.9 was made up of primarily UAP, Liberal Democrats, right? Hinch, shooters, mostly UAP and Liberal Democrats. And the UAP was the one that got over the line. So that 4% got them over the line last time. So how does it look this time? Again, you got to tell me what you think the swing is going to be. It looks like a pretty good swing to the Liberals at the moment, so I think we could probably even increase this. Let's say that, and that. Based on this, it's, that the minor right vote could well go up. But Babette got that last time, and you got to say there's still a chance there. It could be the One Nation, that 4.9 is in play. If the Trumpets put in a lot of money and they get a result like Babette, they're in play. Jordan Ditloff for the Libertarians has to be in play for that. It's all doable, but I tell you what, the thing that stands out is if the Liberals get up to 6.7% in that last race, going for that last spot, I reckon they're going to take it. And I think it looks like if there's a big enough swing to the Liberals this election, I think that means they're likely to get that 3rd spot. So again, that's a very similar story to what I said last time, is you could potentially see a minor right snagging the 3rd Liberal spot. I suspect that's less likely, but even if they do, it doesn't change the left-right balance. So let's go back and see if there's any version of this where Labor doesn't get elected. So if there's a 5% swing away from Labor, they're still on 12.2. Right? Let's say, what's the biggest swing against Labor you could seriously imagine? Like, let's go all out and get crazy. What's the biggest swing against them that you could imagine is viable? Still in that scenario, you would if you had to pick 3 in that scenario, you would probably be saying Liberal, Labor, and the Greens. And if it was, say, Labor versus One Nation or Labor versus, say, Libertarians in that final race, it's going to be determined in large part by the distributions from the minor left, which again is legalized cannabis, animal justice. They're going to be going to Labor. So I don't know if there's an 8% swing, it's doable, right? 8% swing, you could actually see that happening. But is 8% swing realistic? What do you think? We've got a 7%, right? That's probably more realistic than my 8%. And then who are we going to get to win that? That's still probably Liberal, Labor, and Greens picking up the extra spots, leading to a 3-2-1, the exact norm, right? The 3 left, 3 right, the 3 on the right coming from the Liberals, the 3 on the left coming as 2 Labor and a Green. That's like the norm. You should just assume that. That's your null hypothesis. That's the starting assumption. And even with the 7% swing away from Labor and 2 right-wing parties only, you'd still probably think that's the best hope. Does Ditloff have a chance? Well, let's have a look. Firstly, yes, because I mean, if the just go back to the results from last time. Last time, the results meant the minor right picked up the last spot. Right? That the ones I highlight in red are the ones that picked up. They're the ones that won that race for the remaining spots. Right? So I guess I have to highlight that one now. So Labour's second, the Greens, and the minor right. That's exactly what happened last time. And last time the minor right was the UAP was the biggest one there. It's the United Australia Party. And this time around, the UAP aren't running, so we'll have the Trumpets, One Nation, and Libertarians as the main minor right options. One Nation, as you can see here, this is their weakest state, right? This was the only state where they were beaten by UAP across the country last time around. So One Nation, I think there's going to be a swing to One Nation countrywide, but it's hard to imagine the swing is going to be enough to them in Victoria, of all places. So yeah, there could be a minor right place getting it. And if it's minor right, then it could very well be Jordan. I mean, he's in the running. I think the bigger problem is going to be there that if there's a swing to the Liberals, which we've discussed here, I mean, a lot of the swing going to the Liberals this election seems to be coming in Victoria. And if there's a 4% swing, 7.7, that's going to be hard to beat, right? Well, if the Liberals are getting 7.7 towards their third quota, they're probably picking up the quota. So I gotta say that I'd still say, unfortunately, that's the more likely outcome there. But unfortunately for my minor right friends, but I mean that's that in terms of the left-right balance, it doesn't really change anything, and it's hard to see how they pick up a third right-wing option in. Greens in Victoria lost ground, local council elections to the right. Look, I can believe it, but I mean, they'd have to be losing a lot. So, I mean, the polls across the nation seem to be indicating the Greens are bouncing around roughly where they were last time. But the thing is, so in Victoria especially, we can have a look at all of these to see which one the Greens are most likely to lose. But 13.9 is well more than enough. 10% is enough, right? 8% could easily be enough. I don't think there's ever been a case of a party getting more than 8% and not being elected under the current Senate voting rules. So that's the Greens vote in Victoria, of all places, would need to halve. And I hope that happens. That'd be glorious to see. I mean, but no love for the Greens. That doesn't ring true to me. I mean, feel free to say in the chat whether you think it could happen, but that doesn't ring true to me as a realistic option. So, all right, so we haven't made much progress here. We haven't been able to knock over a left-wing seat for New South Wales and Victoria. Queensland is the one where I've already put that in, which is by no means guaranteed. I mean, this could easily just end up looking like that. Indeed, that's probably what most people think Queensland looks like now. 2 Liberal, 1 Nation, 2 Labor, and a Green. And if this is the case, you can see over here, they're even further behind. These are, I think I should have made these numbers bigger. Right? This is what they need this to get to 37, at least 38, with 38 and take advantage of this one. Although we'll get back to it later. I think we all pretty much know Lambie's going to win that. Let's see what I've done wrong. But anyway, let's unpack Queensland. Let's see. So what's it going to look like here? Last time around, Liberals got 2 straight away. Labor got 1 straight away. So that's 3 out of the running. So there's 3 more to get. And this was the race for the last 3 spots. Who had the highest number here? You can see the Greens, 12.4, easily enough. Even if there's a swing against them, easily enough. Labor on 10%, that was enough. And then it became a very close race here between the LNP, that was Amanda Stoker, and One Nation, that was Pauline Hanson. And it came down, they were counting that for quite a while, and eventually Pauline Hanson got in over the top of Amanda Stoker for that last spot. You can see here that the minor right, 8.8, the minor left, 9.4. Both decent scores, but of course, they don't actually run as one ticket. Those votes actually are splinters. You see UAP 4.2, Liberal Democrats 2.5, Great Australia Party 0.8. So you can't just add all them together because there's plenty of people who vote for one of these parties and then preference elsewhere. And you can see the minor left did quite well here. That was mostly cannabis at 5.4 and animals at 1.3 and Indigenous at 1.1. But again, they weren't able to catch up to this. There's 12.4 for the Greens and 10.4 for Labor meant that where was Labour minor left going to go? Right? So they weren't able to realistically stay in the running, and that's going to be true. The minor left is nearly always a non-starter because, as I said before, because the Greens are so strong in Australia. But this is what happened last time, and this was 3-2. Yeah, so last time it was 2 Liberals, 2 Labor, 1 Green, 1 Nation, 1 Nation. And I suspect that's what most people see is happening now. You got to tell me what you think the swing is going to be. I mean, I think Queensland will go well for Dutton, but it did last time, so it's not a very big swing. So the best case scenario here is you have enough of a swing against Labor that Labor loses their second seat, which is exactly what happened. If you remember the continuing, that's what happened. Not that one. 2 elections ago when Malcolm Roberts got up. So 3 Liberals were elected at the time. That was Gerard Rennick. He was elected as a Liberal. So 3 Liberals and 1 Nation. So 4 on the right. That's what happened 2 elections ago in Queensland. That's exactly what they'd be hoping happens here. So you get up 2 Liberals on full quota plus an extra Liberal. And then only 1 Labor being stranded on, say, 7.4%. The Greens are going to get up for sure. And then 1 Nation got elected last time, a small swing to them, they should get elected again. So the swap happening here is if there's enough of a swing, then the 3rd Liberal could take the 2nd Labor spot, which is very doable. I mean, that's, well, the other thing to look at here, of course, is look at the minor right number, 9.8. Again, if it was 1 candidate. So when people are saying, how can we have both Malcolm Roberts and Gerard Rennick elected at the same time, or put in Jim Wilmot from the Libertarians, how can you get 2 out of those 3 elected, or chuck in Mr. Trumpet, whoever that's going to be? It's very hard to imagine you getting 2 of the minor right elected. But if that was to happen, then that would be, you'd have to then have the 3rd Liberal not get elected, still get 1 Nation elected, and get a minor right elected. And there you go. That's still 6, isn't it? But I think that's what people can be hoping for. If you're hoping for Gerard Rennick and Malcolm Roberts, if that's what you've been daydreaming about, then your scenario there has to be, I guess you'd have to be hoping 0 swing to the Liberals here and 2% goes to People First. And then you just have to really hope that those preferences flow between the Libertarians, People First, the Trumpets, whichever other little minor right party flows. Because 10.8 looks impressive, but as you've seen on all the other pages, the number, minor right number, always looks impressive. And 8.3, that's bigger than the people who won on 8.2, but 8.3 was nowhere near it. So this is we discussed it before. This is part of the argument when people are talking about how you combine the minor right into a single column and actually make this a force that has a chance at picking up seats. Because even here, I got to say, 6.9 to the Liberals, 10.8 scattered in the minor right. 6.9 probably wins. Or in this instance, it would probably be the Labor's 7.4 would probably win that spot. So that's not pretty. So, well, that's what you can hope for if you want the Liberals, if you want Queensland to swing 4-2 to the right. So going back here, once again showing this. So let's be optimistic, right? Because that's what we're trying to do here, trying to find the most optimistic case. So if Gerard Rennick wins, he'll be taking this spot. So you can give him that if you like, but it doesn't make any difference to the left-right split. So I think we've established that it's very hard to see how the right pick up a 4th spot in New South Wales or Victoria. They could get it in Queensland. What about WA? See, WA went the wrong way last time. The last time, again, Liberal, Labor, Greens, 1 Nation, minor right, minor left. Last time around, straight away, 5 elected. So you have 6 elected each time. 5 were elected on primary votes. So the Greens actually made the primary vote here. And the Liberal and Labor both easily made 2 each. And then when the leftover, Labor picked up a 3rd. So last time around, for it to emulate that, it was 3 Labor, 1 Green. 4 out of 6 left wing in WA last time. Which, come on, WA. I mean, that's kind of silly. What are you doing that for? You're supposed to have a different reputation than that. But this time around, if there's just a kind of direct sort of swing away from Labor to Liberals, or to Liberals or One Nation, UAP is not very popular. Clive's not very popular in WA, but I think the most likely outcome here seems to be Liberals picking up that Labor spot. There's not really any imagining here for a situation. There's no scenario where the left don't pick up 3. I mean, Greens would have to go down, they'd have to halve their vote. Is that realistic? I could see it going down 4%, but still, 10% would be enough to win. And Labor, even if you went down -8, they would still win, right? So they'd still win their second. I mean, they'd lose their third person, but they'd still win their second. So you still have your, what can you give them then? Give them 4, 2 and 2. You still get 3 lefties, right? So going back to our main page here, that's still, we're not breaking through. We're not getting to that bottom. This bottom half of the chart is what we need to get a right winger elected to, and potentially getting through there in Queensland. We didn't find a way for New South Wales, Victoria, and I can pretty much guarantee WA can't. I mean, there's a 15% swing. I mean, how big is the swing looking in WA? That doesn't seem credible. Yeah, I think they're going to vote a bit more sensibly this federal election, but it looks like in the WA state election, they're going to just re-elect Labor easily. Excuse me. In which state there? Sorry, I wasn't. I don't see the. Might have a better shot. Is this Queensland? Well, we can go back to Queensland, but I mean, Queensland's the one I've already given, right? So Queensland's the one where we could already pick it up. We're not going to pick up 5 out of 6, right? That's not going to happen. All right, so 10% swing. Let's take it. So here's the thing: you got to remember, Queensland did very well last election. So right now, Queensland is polling very well for the LNP. But if you look at the swing, i.e., change from the last election, there's no swing. There's like a very small Liberal swing. That's because Liberals already did very well. So to get a 10% swing from that, but even then, a 10% swing still has Labor getting 1. And I guess, let's say, if you're saying 6% swing away from the Labor Party and a 4% swing away from the Greens, I guess, what is it, assuming a 6% swing to One Nation. I don't find these numbers credible. Sorry, it's just the Greens are basically polling it flat at the moment, so -4. But then even there, keep in mind that this 4% is going to, preferences are going to flow straight onto the Greens, which gives the Greens that 12.8. So that 12.8 is still going to beat in these other parties. Will still beat in this 10.8 that's split between a bunch of different minor right parties. So yeah, that's, I don't know. What were the more credible numbers here? Yeah, I'll go with that. But that is still, I mean, that's, Queensland is the one state where I've said, you know, you can get 4 to the right. You're not getting 5-1. Just going back, checking the, I think it would be very different. I hate compulsory voting. I think it's a blight on our democracy and bastardization of our system that ensures we always run to the lowest common denominator. But I don't think we're going to be solving that between now and the next federal election, which is coming up in a couple of weeks. Well, we'll give the world its best chance. But anyway, so WA, no chance. We're giving up. We're not getting a 4th right-wing seat in WA. Let's check out South Australia. So South Australia is interesting because, well, I don't think you're getting a 4th right-wing seat, but you could end up with another One Nation seat in South Australia. So let's have a look. Again, last election, 2022, Liberal over 30, Labor over 30. So again, both of them just picked up 2 Senate spots straight away. So that's 4 Senate spots taken straight away. So there's only a race for the last 2. The Greens, again, 12%. It's not a full quota, but it's more than enough. So they're going to pick up that spot. And then everyone else is racing for that coveted 6th spot. and this was the race as it looked. So you can see here again, the minor right actually got the bigger number in this race for the sixth spot, right behind the Greens, but the race for the sixth spot, and 4% for One Nation is okay. The minor left, again, this legalized cannabis on 2.3, but 5.4 for the Liberals. 5.4 ended up being enough, right? You normally need a bit more than that. That's a 4 or 5% is doable, but you have to be very lucky, like Ralph Babette and the third Liberal here. But they got lucky because this minor right vote, the 6.8, was splintered. 3% UAP, 2.2 Lib Dems, 0.6 Great Australia, 0.4 the Trumpets of Patriots. This is the party that changed its name to Trumpets of Patriots. So they were in the mix last time round. So anyway, that was the Liberals picked up 3 last time. If there's a swing to the Liberals, it's hard to see them not picking up 3. So that's the interesting one. They got it last time, and there's a swing to them. But there is a possibility here that there's also a swing to One Nation. So even though the Liberals get a swing to them, they could lose their spot to this. What is this doing here? That's what they had last time, and I think there's a chance they even lose that spot to the One Nation. But anyway, that's going to be an interesting race, right? This is One Nation versus Liberals, but that's for the third right-wing spot. How do we get one of the 3 left-wing spots? Well, look, 12%. Again, the Greens, they could lose a few percent. And remember, they're backed up by this. They've got an extra 4.7% of left-wing preferences coming to them. So they're going to make it. Is there any scenario here where Labor gets down to so low that they don't pick up their second quota? Well, if there's a 4% swing, they get it easily. If there's an 8% swing, I'd say they still get it easily. Is there going to be an 8% swing against Labor in South Australia? What about a 10% swing? All right, I'll just change this as I did on the other ones. A 10% swing, we have to give it to someone. Who will give it to them? We'll give it 5% to the Liberals. There you go. So if you had a 10% swing against Labor in South Australia, then you can potentially steal Labor's second. And who would be getting it then? Then you could get the third Liberal. The Green's going to make it, and One Nation as well. So that'd be nice. We're going to call that realistic? A 10% swing away from Labor in South Australia? I mean, I see no evidence of that. I think we're far more likely to get something like a -6, which means this would have to be more like a 3. And what's that down to? Yeah, and 12% is enough, right? If Labor gets 12% towards a quota, they're picking up that quota, and they're picking it up from who? Probably One Nation on those numbers. So again, 3, 2, 1. It looks like I'm going to say, unfortunately for One Nation, it still looks more likely that the Liberals pick up the 3 there. But again, we don't cross over. And then we've got Tasmania. And Tasmania, we don't even have 3 out of 6 going to the right. We had 2 last time, 2 the time before. I mean, South Australia has been lost. There's been a consistent dropping of a seat there. And it's going to be hard to imagine passing right-wing legislation until there's something can be done about Lambie and Tyrrell. I mean, it's not a useful set of senators because they're only replacing a right-wing vote. So it's not like, oh, we can deal with Lambie and Tyrrell better than we can deal with Labor. Sure, maybe. But they're not replacing the Greens or Labor. So you can see here, they consistently, the last time around, continuing, they're replacing. They're on the top. They're on the right-wing side of the Senate balance. They're replacing a Liberal or a One Nation or a minor right. So let's go. Let's unpack Tasmania then. Last time, Liberals over 30, Labour didn't get over 30 this time. They only got the one quota outright. The Greens got more than a quota outright, so the Greens are straight in. So we did have two left-wing spots straight in. Two left-wing spots straight in, two Liberals straight in. And let's take the quotas off. This was the remaining race. Remember, the race is a race to 14.3. As soon as you're at 10, you're probably going to make it. As soon as you're at 8, you're probably going to make it. And as you see here, the second Labour person was easily in. Although the second Labour person could be under threat. That would be interesting. So Tasmania is one we could keep an eye on. This could get interesting. All right, two Liberal, one Labor, one Green locked in. In this race, last time the highest numbers were 12.8 for the second Labor, and Lambie at 8.6. All right, well that's actually Tammy Tyrrell, but she was running for the Lambie network, Lambie Party. So what sort of swings do we imagine? Well, I suspect the Lambie group is just as popular as they used to be, and if they're still on 8.6%, then they're probably still getting elected. But who else gets it mixed up down here? Let's say there's a bigger swing against Labour here. We can do say 3 minus 5 and 2. Ooh. The Greens vote will go to help Labour. That won't be enough because some of the One Nation and minor right vote would go to help the Liberals. I mean, if One Nation's vote went up enough, 4% swing to One Nation up to 8%. Could they get 8% in Tasmania? The problem there is I don't think One Nation can get that higher percent in Tasmania because I think Lambie is eating up some of their potential support. But the Liberals got a 3% swing to them. I'm going to say there's a chance they pick up that last spot. Well, there you go. Let's put that in. We found one place to be able to squeeze an extra vote. Well, there we see. Okay. This is the path. As you see over here, we have managed to squint and turn it sideways and shake this Excel spreadsheet until something came out of it that we could interpret as vaguely hopeful. The best case scenario, if the Liberals run the board, get as lucky as possible in each seat, get the biggest swing that we can conceivably find realistic at this point, they can get to 37 on the minor right. That's actually only 33 Liberals, but with the support of 2 One Nation and 2 minor right. And then they can pass legislation only with the support of Jackie Lambie. That's the best case scenario. We found it. We found the best case scenario. Oh my Allah, this is still depressing. The best case scenario is it might be possible that the Liberals could pass legislation by begging Jackie Lambie. I think I need something stronger than this coffee. Now, that also assumes that the Liberals are able to take the Labor spot in the ACT. So, I mean, that's very contested. I don't know. How can we mark the ones that are contested here? Yeah. Hopeful for South Australia. All right, what did I miss? SA best state. Are you from SA? You think a more than 6% swing? Well, it'd have to be. It'd have to be a more than 8% swing, wouldn't it? What are you hoping for here? Let's put this up by 2, and this down by another 2. Well, they've already won there, so you'd need to be putting up One Nation. So let's put them back down. 3. One Nation up by 6. One Nation. Could One Nation poll at 10%? And then get elected off the back of the minor right? All right, but if they did get up to 10%, they're more likely to be knocking out the Liberal here. Keep in mind the minor left is still divvying up some. Well, if the Greens went down, then the minor left vote would have to go to prop up the Greens and wouldn't be there to prop up Labor. So how would this work then? This would go down to 1 Labor, 3 Liberal, 1 Labor, 1 Green, and 1 Nation. Welcome, welcome to my depressing reality for Monday night, Clinton. Uh, uh, I'm all for intuition, but at the end of the day, the numbers are going to add up somehow. I'm sure it will, but regional SA doesn't have that many people in it. I mean, there's only what, three seats total outside of Adelaide. So, look, I hope you're right, but yeah, well, there you go, Liberty. There's the response to South Australia. Um, so Liberty Torrent must be from South Australia, so he thinks the swing's on the ground. Well, this was my point earlier, Clinton, but I don't think you even need Jackie Lambie for that. If there's bad enough legislation, then either Labor or the Greens will agree to it. I mean, it's a sad reality. Um, Only two people outside Adelaide. All right, no, it's got to be at least five. No, I went swimming with great white sharks in South Australia. That's my enduring memory of driving through South Australia. I can't remember the name of the town. I'll be crucified for not remembering it, but it's south of Whyalla, the famous Whyalla wipeout. Uh, but that was fun. Everyone should go. Go swimming with the great white sharks in South Australia. Still a reason the place exists. A big swing to the libs? Well, let's go check out those numbers again. I mean, what do you mean by big, though? For people saying they think there's going to be a swing, I'm all for it. Give me a number. Give me a number what you think the swing's going to be. Because the polls do suggest a couple of percent swing to the libs across the country. It seems like most of it is in Victoria and New South Wales. That wasn't Port Pirie. It wasn't Normanville. I can look it up for you if you like. It's just, all right. I'll do that. Another place where I went swimming with the great white sharks in South Australia. Google Maps, come here. Port Lincoln. That's what it was. Unless that's actually what you were trying to say. Port Lincoln is where I went. So 10% swing to the well, let's open up WA and you tell me what it is, where you think the swing is here. A 10% swing away from Labor. So let me just adjust. I've got this written. %10 swing. So tell me, Frank, where do you think the 10% swing is going? We'll give 6% to the Liberals, 8% to the Liberals. How much to One Nation and how much to the minor right or to anyone else? All 10 coming off Labor or anything coming off the Greens? So I got to say here, even with these numbers, even if there's a 10% swing away from Labor, I still see them getting their second person up. Still seems like 3 Liberal, 2 Labor, 1 Green seems the most likely, unless there's a really strong swing to the Liberals, or unless the minor right vote is collated. I don't know which of the minor right. Yeah, most of the Libs. Well, I've got 6 going there, so you think more if I give that? Yeah, this is 2 Labor still. I mean, 10.3 is enough. They're going to get, if you have 10.3 votes, 10.3% going into that final race, 10.1 is enough. The Liberals will get up, but 10.3 is enough. Labor would still get up, even with a 10% swing against them. They'll still get their second one, and the Greens on 14.3. I don't know. Could the Greens vote go down another 5%? A 15% swing against the? Yeah, well, I'm happy to put it down, but it'd have to like half. So let's put the Greens vote down 4%. And who do we give that to? We'll give some to One Nation and some to the minor right. Realistically, some will go to cannabis, so maybe we give some to cannabis then. Just a check. That doesn't change the outcome, unfortunately. So we have to get a bigger swing away from the Greens. Sorry for people who there's a chat going on here. I'll let you guys see the whole thing there. I've been chatting with Frank. I've been verbalizing it. He's been writing it down. WA can be a big swing. I asked him how much. He said 10%. I said, where's it going to go? He said, mostly to the Libs. I said, well, it's still not going to be enough. And he said, well, the Greens will also go down. So I plugged in that now. You can see on the screen, 10% swing away from Labor, 4% swing away from the Greens. What was that? So those are the likely last three elected there. Because remember, minor right looks good here, but that minor right is not all collected. It's not all together. It's the Christians on 2.2, the UAP on 2.1, the Liberal Democrats, now called Libertarians, on 1.9, Great Australia Party on 1.1. I'm not really sure what the WA Party stands for, but those votes don't actually all collate together. So this 10.2 isn't a real 10.2. So consider that closer to a 6 or a 7, and then 10, 10, 10 is still the highest vote. So you're still... Look, I hope you're right. I mean, WA should have a big swing. I know. I'm plugging in your gut feeling. I mean, I find that believable. A really big swing, 10% swing against Labor, 4% swing against the Greens. I'm not doubting your the size of your swing there. I'm just saying we plug in all of those swings, still 3 left, 3 right. I hope I'm wrong here, ladies and gentlemen. I really do. If we can find some numbers to plug in that people think are credible. For a segue onto policy, I like that. We normally do policy on the Thursday and politics on the Monday, but I can be flexible. Look, I can't see how this shifts any votes, because what has Dutton said that's any different? I mean, both of our major parties are stuck firmly in sort of cliche normie territory. I mean, whatever, a cliche normie politician would say 5 or 10 years ago is still what all of our major party politicians would say today. We don't have many of the people who are breaking the mold. There's not many Alex Antics, and even he has to stay mostly quiet during an election campaign. So if Albo and Dutton are both saying the same sort of normie chest thumping, I will go and fight in Ukraine myself. No, you won't. But no one believes them. But no one. I don't know how anyone can shift their vote when they're both saying the same thing. Unless I'm not seeing something. I don't know. Did Dutton come out today and say he fully backs Trump and Zelensky is a corrupt dictator? I suspect Dutton didn't say that. Didn't he come out and say that he disagrees with Trump? And I always find it interesting the degree to which these people try to give lessons on, oh, don't you know Russia invaded? Yeah, sure. Dollars to donuts. How many of these people know what was happening in 2014? I mean, maybe they've done some quick Googling now because they saw some of their heroes get asked a question and get embarrassed on TV. But there's not many of these people who can explain to me how it is that Russia invaded in 2014. Of course, it's the 2014 war that's still going on here. It's just sort of changed its dynamics. But anyway, putting that aside, we don't have to be right, don't have to be wrong. But the point is, and politically speaking, if Dutton and Albanese are both the same, then I can't see why anyone would switch their vote between Dutton and Albanese on that issue. So, yeah, as well, the Commonwealth collapses, so you'd be living in the Great Republic or the constitutional monarchy of South Australia. I guess it would make it easier. It's one fewer election for you to look after. Although, I mean, I think Queensland should half consider invading you bastards, and so that we would have a place under our control where you can go swimming with the great white sharks. So, can't take you seriously until you learn rugby. Just stop us. Hey, look, Frank, I agree with you. Just today we're looking at how this is going to impact votes on policy. I'm a peacenik from way back in the day. I mean, I remember when the Afghan war kicked off. I remember when 9/11 happened, and the next day I went in and no one knew what had happened yet. And I said, America's going to invade Afghanistan because they'll say Osama bin Laden did it, and they'll say the Taliban have been hiding him. Which now everyone kind of knows is obvious, but I said at the time, and I said at the time, the day after 9/11, and it'll be a mistake. So yes, I've got a long bona fides of anti-war radicalism, and I stick by that. I was against America bombing Serbia under the guise of NATO back at the time when everyone else was just cheerleading that. And uh, yeah, and I think again with this one, the behavior of NATO was not helpful. You don't coup a country and then support their oppression of their eastern provinces and then suddenly say, no, no, we believe that these borders that were just sort of created by Stalin, bastardizing them after the fact for no good reason, but now they are sacrosanct. They are sacrosanct everywhere in the world. Oh, except for, Kosovo and Serbia. No, no, we don't really like that border, so we'll just bomb the hell out of the Serbians to make them change their border. But no, 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 when there's a perfectly sensible change that could happen in Ukraine, no, 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 millions of kids must die. They must die for that border. I find the whole thing cockamamie bullshit. So, more to the point, from the Australian perspective, I might be fully wrong about the Ukraine, but even if I were, Australia's got no role in it. As far as I see, none of this is official ATA position. I'm here representing the ATA, but now I'm just freewheeling at 9 p.m. my time, 10 p.m. Southern time, just about whatever shows up in the chat. But yes, I am a radical for peace, and more to the point, in this situation at least, and in most situations, I'm a radical for non-interventionism. Australia doesn't need to be involved in any of this bullshit. We can just pat them on the back and say, good luck, fellas. By the way, would you like to buy some of our coal? And then just go back to the cricket. Yeah. Your sport's not too bad as well, I guess. I mean, I find myself getting bored watching it, but I mean, it's they've got some skill. They do some good catching. George Bush was against the Serbia bombing also. Oh, okay, yeah, right until he had power. That's a very convenient and common situation of politicians. Yeah, they're good before they get power. They suck when they have power. Then they retire, and half of them become really good again. Um, I don't know how that helps us. But anyway, we're segueing onto policy, and I love the policy chat. You put more in there, I will respond to it. I'll take the bait. I can't help myself, so you know, try me if you like. But I might see if I can wrap up this. Did we find a 10% swing against Labor in WA? Did anyone find that credible? I know Frank was talking about it. On the 10% swing to the Libs. Yeah. 450 for jousting sticks. No, mate, tell him he's dreaming. Look, I could see it. I could see there being a big swing to the Liberals in WA. My disagreement with Frank there wasn't quibbling over the swing. It was just noticing, if you look at these numbers, even with a 10% swing, Labor's still on track to pick up that second quota. I mean, the Liberals pick up an extra quota, don't, because last time round, remember, Labor got 3 and Liberals 2. So I'm already saying, yeah, there's going to be a swing. Liberals get 3. Stop it, balloons. Piss off. Liberals get 3. Labor gets 2 this time. Guarantee those balloons come back now. I'm going to pop them. All right. But anyway, yeah, so I'm all for there being 1 seat shifting categories from left to right, as it should be. But 2 seats, oh, struggle to see it. So, yeah, I mean, I could see it in South Australia. I think was that the one that we went through before? We found a way to squint and see that if there was an 8% swing, Labor would get down to 10. We would need to get. That still looks like Labor getting up to me, doesn't it? I mean, 10%. There's a race for 3 spots. There's 12, 10, 9, 9. If you're coming second in a race for 3 spots, you're going to be pretty comfortable. Could we have a 10% swing against Labor in South Australia? If you had that, so you're talking about 10 in WA. If you got a 10% swing in South Australia, tell me, South Australians, is there any chance of that? Does anyone have a gut feeling for 10% in South Australia? No, there was. That's why I totally agree with you. I'm not quibbling the percents. I locked in your 10% and an extra 4%, a 14% swing against the left. Let's take it as read that they're definitely getting that swing. It just doesn't stop them picking up 3 left-wing Senate spots. But South Australians, there were a bunch of South Australians here before, can usually a 10% swing. The Alexantic state. Will the minor left vote shift to the minor right because they are pro-war? Like, keep in mind, the minor left vote is primarily made up of well, there's three groups. There's the old Reason Sex Party crowd, who may be civil libertarian. They may be a bit anti-war, but I think they pride themselves a lot more on just hating the fascy boys, right? They are really, Fiona Patton would not want to coordinate with the right. Then you've got the animal justice group, and they're just voting vegan. I mean, if it's so their preferences will go straight to the Greens. They're not going to switch to a party because it's pro-peace if you are having a cheeseburger. And then there's cannabis, and realistically, most people vote cannabis at the last second without thinking about it. They don't have a deep thinking, deep-seated base in the country. They have a lot of people who show up, giggle to themselves, stare at the ballot paper, and just tick the cannabis leaf. So yeah, a bunch of those people are probably pro-peace, but I suspect they would just tick the cannabis box still. I think the cannabis vote's still going up in Australia. I'd like to see it go up enough to knock the Greens out. I don't think we're there yet. We should keep an eye out for that. But no, I don't see enough of the minor left vote shifting to the minor right on that. It's probably more Liberal Labor voters who decide they are pro-peace who would actually be willing to go, tell you what, this is the point where I'm going to part ways with my major party. Or perhaps if there are any old Greenies that were Greenies because they were civil libertarians. But these days, people just vote Green because they're sort of hard left-wing. I mean, we don't really have to explain to people that much anymore that the Greens are watermelons, green on the outside, red on the inside. Everyone kind of knows that you vote Green because you want to vote for the most left-wing party you can find that doesn't have the word socialist in it. So I suspect that sort of left is quite comfortable with war these days. So going back to the South Australian question, you think there'll be something in SA? I love the specificity. I don't know how to plug that in. Let me try that. I think there'll be something. All right, let's try that. Didn't work. Sorry. No value. I get no value out of your something. So, well, because some people want to legalize cannabis, but more to the point, the nature of their vote is they don't campaign, right? So, and they get a big Senate vote and not much of a House vote, which suggests that they get like low information voters that just want to vote against the majors. And lots of people are like that. They walk in and go, screw the majors. I just don't like politics. I'm not rewarding anyone I've heard of before. And they walk in, and on the Senate ballot, they see legalized cannabis, and they think, every party on this ballot that I've heard of, I don't like them. Sure, legalizing cannabis, that's a fine idea. They don't offend me. Like, that is harmless. I get to vote for someone who doesn't make me throw up in my mouth when I think about them as a party. I suspect that's the instinct. They've just got this harmless vibe. Harmless, yeah, and people like weed as well. That's the other point. But a harmless vibe. Where would the Xenophon vote go? That's a good point. All right, so I've got the Xenophon vote just going down 2%. So last time, I got about 3.5% was just bundled together in unendorsed. And as I put in brackets here, that's mostly Xenophon. So 3.5 to Xenophon, which I put in the other column, which is why South Australia is the only one with a really significant other. I just had that going down too. I had that mostly going to One Nation. Well, One Nation's polling quite well in South Australia, and I suspect part of that is that South Australia's always had this kind of looking for the quirky outsider. So they used to be the heartland of the Democrats, and then it was Xenophon territory. And now I believe One Nation is doing quite well in the polls in South Australia. So I just gave One Nation quite a big boost and a big chunk of that. So it could be more. Okay, making it easier and easier. So that's the -10 that I find hard to believe here, but that's -8, and that was -1. That's a 6. That's a very good race. Imagine that, 10% versus 10% versus 11% versus 10%, all racing for 3 spots. One of them going to miss out. And then it would come down to minor right and minor left preferences, which would go where? Minor left preferences flow well. Minor right preferences don't, which makes me think One Nation or the Liberals would miss out. We got to get people to preference better. I guess that's one of the takeaways here. Yeah, there should be a reference to what I was saying before about finding everything harmless. When you say it, are you talking about One Nation? Because what I was saying that they're up in the polls, I was explicitly referring to state-specific polls looking at South Australia. So it seems like state by state, One Nation is now the most popular in Queensland and South Australia. So, and still not very popular in Victoria. So I may be wrong, but I'm only as wrong as the polls are because I don't pretend to have any particular insights in this regard. So anyway, going through state by state, let me just quickly. We did Tassie? Yeah, we did the Jackie Lambie. Jackie Lambie looks like she has it sewed up. So there's 4. There's only 1 to go. So Liberal could take it off Labor. Oh, that's right. And that Tasmania was the one that we said it might be doable. And if Tasmania turns, that could be the way. The best case scenario of Jackie Lambie having control of the Senate. Anyway, just firstly, Northern Territory you don't have to look at. Northern Territory you need 33%, not 14.3. And look, it's going to be Liberal and Labor. That's country Liberals, that is. Country Liberals, Labor, even if there's a swing, they're both around 30%. No one's within cooey, so the preferences get them over the line. Northern Territory, very boring. ACT, more interesting. Look at this. Labor, 33. So that was enough for them last time. Liberals, 24. 10 to the Greens, but then here's the big one. Pocock, 21. You'll notice Liberals got more than Pocock last time, but Pocock picked up all the preferences from the Greens. One Nation didn't run. Minor left was much bigger than the minor right, and that got Pocock over the line. This time around, I think there's going to be a swing to Pocock, but also a swing to the Liberals, and all of it coming at the expense of Labor. So these numbers could easily be wrong, but if there's a near 10% swing against Labor, half to Pocock, half to the Liberals, my read of this means it's the Liberals and Pocock that get in. Right, so Greens votes would put Pocock over the line. The excess Green votes would start putting Labor up over the line. But some of those votes scatter. I mean, people don't always follow the how to vote cards perfectly. So you're going to have some of those, 10% of those Green votes putting the Liberal vote up. The minor right vote putting the Liberal Party vote up. A bunch of the minor vote just sort of scattering and the votes being excluded. So look, you have to get a bit lucky with this. It's unlikely. I'm just predicting it because I didn't see anyone else predict it. I think it's possible, so I thought I'd predict it first so that if it does happen, I look like a genius. And if it doesn't, we pretend I never said it. This is a small little live stream. None of you will remember, so I get off the hook. But if it does happen, then I want you to remember. That's my agreement with you. Oh well, don't do that. Now I don't know what you're talking about. Well, that's what I'm here for, Clinton. Give you ideas you haven't thought about before. Right? So it's the Liberals only just missed out with the swing against them. If there's a swing to them, they could be back in. I've seen other people notice that before, but they seem to think that the Liberals would replace Pocock. I reckon the Canberra voter has taken to Pocock, and I think the Greens will still preference it. So, I mean, just his vote plus the Greens, not quite enough, but his vote plus the Greens plus Kim for Canberra, so that's another left independent. That vote will probably roll in with Pocock. Yeah, over the line. That's 36%. But, Pocock would probably get the preferences from legalized cannabis. Not that the people who vote for legalized cannabis follow how to vote cards. So I reckon Pocock's fine. I don't think Pocock's getting knocked out. I think it's going to be Liberal versus Labor. And if there's a swing to the Liberals, then you've got to knock someone out. I mean, once they get to 33%, they're in. So, inshallah. Wow. I would argue that's true for a hell of a lot of politicians. That's not only true for Pocock. Although, I mean, with these numbers come out, let's go back to the scoreboard here, the prediction. This is the best case scenario, right? The best case scenario. It's hard to believe all of this is going to happen. All right. Look, I'd love to see New South Wales go to the minor right. So, go Craig Kelly. Just to keep things simple here, I think that spot's either Liberal or minor right, but just to keep it nice and simple, if it goes to Liberal, best case scenario, Liberals take the board. One Nation gets an extra spot in Queensland. The Lambies take a spot out of the left. Even there, that's only 37, so they're relying on 2. But one of these could easily not happen, right? So this will be fine. New South Wales, they'll get 3, or the right will get 3. Victoria, the right will get 3. This could easily not happen, right? So that's what most people think is going to happen. WA, they'll get their 3. South Australia, I could go One Nation, but that's still the same number on the right, so let's not bother with that. But this one could easily not happen. And this could easily not happen. So, I mean, that's probably the norm. That's probably what most people are expecting. And if that's what most people are expecting, then the Liberals just can't pass anything, right? Labor and the left have a blocking majority, right? But let's say they can pick up something, right? So they get Queensland. No, they're still screwed. They've got to get at least 2 of these, right? So this is what to keep an eye on. I think Queensland, can we get 4 to the right? Tassie, the question is, can we get 3 to the right? And ACT. So let's say we miss out on ACT at the moment. If that's the case, the Liberals would need to get Jackie Lambie, Tammy Tyrrell, and Pocock, as Pocock's probably the next most likely, or Fatima Payman, if they can suck up to the Muslim vote, which I don't suspect the Liberals would be very effective at doing. Or Lydia Thorpe, maybe they could offer her own independent country. That might work. Excuse me. Yeah, I mean that's how they got a majority back in 2004. So for those watching along at home, I don't think they need to in Queensland. They can just rely on One Nation to do it. But for those watching at home, you may remember, or for those not watching at home, well, where else are you watching? I don't really care where you're watching. But you may remember that Howard, in his last term, so 2004 to 2007, the coalition actually had a majority in the Senate. Now, I keep saying it's near impossible, and it is near impossible. The thing is, back there in Queensland, the Liberals and Nationals ran 2 separate tickets. So this scenario we had here in Queensland, I'll go back to this. This scenario is basically they had this, but it had Liberal, and then National. Right, and so Queensland went 4 right-wingers, and everywhere else went 3, and they held that for 2 elections in a row, and then they got that extra one there. And so for 2004 to 2007, the Liberals actually had 39 votes. Liberal and National combined had 39 votes. That's not doable with the LNP having merged in Queensland, right? So to get it as 1 ticket, you need 43%, right? So you saw all those numbers before. So 43%. They got 36, nowhere near 43. They got 32, nowhere near 43. They got 35, nowhere near 43. They got 32, nowhere near 43. You see, again. Now, but 43 only gets you 3 seats. If you want to get 4 seats, you need 57. Can anyone see them getting 57? Now, sure, now you don't need to get the full 57. 53 would get you 53%. They're not going to get 53% in the Senate. They're not going to get 51% in the Senate. Right? They're not going to get 50% in the Senate. So 50% could do it. But look at these Senate numbers. Their vote could go up. They could go up a hell of a lot. They're not getting to 50% in the Senate. Right? So the Liberals and Nationals running as a joint ticket will never be able to win 4 seats. So the only way that the right is going to be able to win 4 out of 6 seats is for a minor right party to actually carve out a niche, just like the Greens have, right? We need a minor right party to carve out a niche to be able to sometimes allow exactly what we point to here in Queensland. This thing, Liberal, One Nation, or what they did back to us in WA last time. Where is that? Green, Independent, Labor. Well, it was 3 Labors at the time when Fatima Payman quit her party. But yeah, you're going to need a minor right party to help you there. Liberals, I don't know how long it's going to take the Liberals and Nationals to notice this. I mean, it was self-evident as of, well, it's been self-evident for well over a decade. I don't know whether the Liberals have worked it out yet. I don't know how long it'll take of them living with the Greens, or at best case scenario, Jackie Lambie balance of power, for them to realize, oh shit, it'd be great if we could get a fourth right-winger elected. 4 out of 6 in one of these states. 4 out of 6, yes, that's what you need. You need 4 out of 6. That means they need to exist. Preferably not Jackie Lambie, an actual right-winger. And once they realize that, I think it's going to significantly change their attitude to minor right parties. They might decide that it's actually worth talking to Pauline Hanson or a Craig Kelly or the One Nation or the Libertarians or UAP or whatever Clive's calling himself by then. Yeah, it's self-evident to all of us who know how to count. I don't think self-evident to the Liberals, but self-evident to everyone who knows how to add up and do the deep thinking about numbers. 6 people elected. If we get 4 right-wingers, it might help us pass legislation. No, that apparently is a lot more complicated than you and I think, Clinton. I mean, let's not condescend to the poor retarded bastards. I don't expect minor parties to become major. I mean, the system's rigged. Yeah, all systems are rigged. But if a minor party became major, I don't think it would actually stay believing what it believes now. Once you become a major party, your incentive is to play to 50% plus one. And if you don't, you just lose, and you lose forever. And everyone who's a part of your party quits, or you get taken over by the pollsters and the backroom boffins who work out how to get 50% plus one. Major parties always have to tack to the center. They always have to tack to normie, boring populism, or nearly always have to do that. So it's much more fun being a minor party, because I think you get to speak truth to power more often. You get to push the Overton window. You get to say crazy things. If a minor party says something and it makes 70% of the country hate them and 10% of the country love them, that minor party can have 12 senators and balance of power. Right? Think about that. That means you get to say, as long as what you're saying isn't totally crazy and everyone hates it. But if you're saying something that 10% of the people love and 70% of the people hate, that's 12 senators. 10% in elections, 6 senators each time. That's exactly what the Greens are doing. 70% hate them, 10% love them. They get 10% of the vote. They get 12 senators. So, and they get to speak their mind. I mean, I disagree with what they're saying, but I think the Greens have the right strategy. That's the way you can push politics. Speak bluntly, shift the Overton window, have the other parties follow you. And it's a bit easier to put your head on the pillow at night, knowing that you still have a soul, because you're able to say, relatively speaking, much more what you believe in. Touche, touche. You'll get there. You'll get there. Anyway, this has gone well over an hour, so I've just been enjoying the banter. All right, well, let's see how we can make that happen before we go. So firstly, we have to give that minor right spot back to, oh no. What am I doing? That's the wrong one. All right, so now we need, oh, that's it. There you go. So in this scenario, Jordan wouldn't have balance of power on his own. He and Craig Kelly, but also 2 One Nations. So you'd have 2 One Nations, 2 Libertarians, and Ralph Babette. So that group of 5, but you also have to include Lambie and Tyrrell. So you'd have 31 Liberals. Your 5 solid minor right crossbench gets you up to 36. Shit, they're still screwed. That's not enough. We have to win another one. Oh, okay, here we go. ACT. The Liberals win the ACT. So there you go. There's the scenario you're hoping for. 32 for the Liberals. So again, the big ones to watch out for here is Queensland need to get 4. Tas needs to get 3 out of 6 to the right. And so these are the big changes to look out for, and not lose anything else, but they're not losing anything else. They'll keep that, right? South Australia will stay 3 to the right. WA will be 3 to the right. Vic and New South Wales will be 3 to the right. But yeah, these are the things to watch out for. And the Libs need to get all of those to have a Senate with even a hope of passing anything. But in that Senate, then If you had the Libs on board and you have Lambie and Tyrrell, then they would need the good crossbench, the two One Nation, the two in this scenario, Libertarians, Jordan Ditloff and Craig Kelly and Ralph Babette, and that group of five would be able to block anything stupid, as long as they had the backing of Jackie Lambie, would be able to then pass other legislation. I know we have to beg, borrow, and steal some other extra. What can we do here? All right, there we go. Screw it. I'm giving South Australia another seat. If they could find some way, a 10% swing against Labor in South Australia, so you get 3 Liberals plus a One Nation, that's 4 out of 6 there. If this happens, you don't need Jackie Lambie. You still need Tammy Tyrrell. And maybe Tammy Tyrrell could team up with One Nation, the Libertarians, and UAP, make a block of 6, or make a block of 7 in this instance. And that would be a good crossbench. This is what we finally found what it is we were hoping for. A situation where the good guys could have balance of power. But I got to say, I don't see how South Australia gets to 4 out of 6 to the right. Well, who knows? I've been wrong before. It was a Tuesday. It was very stressful, but it could happen again. You would need to be taking a lot of his supply. No, Purple Piggers is not running in the lower house. And he's running in the minor left. So we can have a look where he shows up for. Let's have a look at Victoria here. This is the Socialist. He's running VicSoc, right? I think he's running for VicSoc, not Socialist Alliance. Socialist Alliance got 0.2. Victorian Socialists got 0.6. Well, he could even bump that up to 1. But I mean, he then would be competing with his vote for the Australian Democrats, the Reason Party, the Animal Justice Party, for this minor left, 7.5. The problem with that 7.5 is really competing with this Greens 13.9. The idea that minor left vote is going to collate all behind Purple Pingers and then he's going to get in front of the Greens is hard to believe. And it's a swing to the Liberals this election. So the Liberals are picking up 3, or the right wing is picking up 3, maybe 2 Liberals and 1 Jordan Ditloff, or 3 Liberals, or whatever the mix is going to be. And yeah, so it's going to have, I guess they could try to have the VicSocs knock over the Labor Party. I don't see it. I mean, firstly, they have to become the top of the minor left. Then they have to make sure all of the minor left preferences flow. And then they have to try and get that minor left in front of either Labor or the Greens, Labor's second or the Greens. So sorry, Pingers. I know it was probably a joke question, but there you go. I'm here to give serious answers to joke questions. Yeah, I think I would trust Babette most of the time to block stupid shit. I don't know if I'd, always trust him to babysit my kids, but it seems like he's a bit left field sometimes. But I think I'd trust him to consistently vote against the government doing new shit. Like, I think Babbitt has good instincts on that. I'm not sure about all of his political instincts, but I think his policy instincts are generally speaking on point. So I'd feel pretty comfortable. I mean, realistically, the UAP, I'm not sure where that's going. Clive can't spend money anymore. The trumpets thing I find is a bit of an odd deviation. Babette should just join the Libertarians. I mean, that's the most obvious place for him. The way he talks about you don't trust the government, slash the government down to size. Once the government's so small you could drown it in a bathtub. That's the sort of language of the Libertarians. So I think he kind of fits there. He just fits there with a few more swear words. So I know he can be the swear word faction of the Victorian Libertarians. One Nation. Look, Malcolm Roberts. I pretty much trust him on most economic issues as well. He is a very loyal person, though. So if Pauline decides to go off on a wrong tangent, Malcolm would probably stick with her out of loyalty, which I think is a very admirable trait for the man. I mean, there needs to be more decency, team playing, and loyalty in the world. Like Pauline's instincts are normally okay, but yes, it's a little bit harder to trust her because I don't know if she's got a consistent philosophy behind her. Yeah. But anyway, still, I think they would be better than Jackie Lambie. I mean, I'm not saying it's going to be perfect, but Pauline's going to be a part of the equation for a while. And I think the world would be much better if Pauline had balance of power than if David Pocock or Jackie Lambie had balance of power. So let's see if we can try to bring that about. Uh, well, same answer to everything I said before. It's roughly the same scenario. I mean, in Queens, firstly, he's running for the Senate, so he's not going to be Prime Minister from the Senate. He's only running realistically with one person with a chance to win. So if you've got one person, you're not going to be Prime Minister. But let's have a look. In Queensland, to get Rennick up, you're talking about the minor right. So you see it, they're competing, right? If you look at this, these people are racing for the last 3 spots, and I've got likely to go to the Liberals, the Greens, and One Nation. This is with a 5% swing, which I don't think is going to happen, right? So I think Labor may end up taking this last spot from the Liberals. But you're talking about here, could the minor right take one of these spots? Yeah, 9.8 is pretty good. Firstly, is 9.8 going to happen? That was with a 4.2% UAP vote, and Campbell Newman running for the Liberal Democrats, getting 2.5%. So Jared Rennick first has to beat those, has to beat the UAP, beat the Libertarians, then he has to pick up all their preferences, and if those preferences flow tightly enough, and he gets close to this 9.8, then that has to be enough to beat out One Nation and the Liberals after you allocate preferences. It's possible. There's a path. As I said before, that this is what that path would look like. You'd still have One Nation there probably, and you could potentially have Jared Rennick there. So now we're starting to just put in the dream scenario. So who else do we want? Tell me who you want elected. We'll see. We've put it in. So this is Craig Kelly, Jordan Ditloff, Jared Rennick, Malcolm Roberts. They're all in there. Whoever the One Nation person is in South Australia. I don't think they're getting it in WA. But yes, that's how Jared Rennick could potentially get there, get the top of the minor right, collect all the minor right votes, have that minor right vote be high enough to be in this race, the race for the last 3, and then realistically try to knock off the third Liberal. Hope that One Nation knocks off the second Labor and Rennick can knock off the third Liberal, and that's how they could both get in. It's very unlikely they're both going to get in. And I think I like Jared Rennick. I really enjoy the way he thinks. He thinks and talks quickly, and he loves ideas. It's like a man after my own heart in terms of policy wonkery. Would love to see him continue playing a role in politics. So none of this is ill will, but I don't think he's going to make it. I think Malcolm Roberts will make it, but I think the others will struggle. Antic would certainly boost a minor party. I don't know how that would make any sense, though. I mean, he controls the South Australian Liberal Party. So the minor parties, I think you want to be there to be able to move the Overton window, to be able to shift politics, move it in the right direction. But then once the zeitgeist starts shifting, you need good people in the Liberal Party to be able to take advantage of that. And so it's our role to make it possible to do the right thing. But then there needs to be someone in the Liberal Party with the intelligence and courage and moral fortitude to then take the opportunity we've given them, run with it, and do the right thing. And that's why you need your Alex Antics and your Matt Canavans in major parties. It's a very appealing short-term pitch to say Matt Canavan and Alex Antic, and who else? If there's some other good ones, let me know. To get them to switch over. I don't know if it's the right long-term play. I mean, don't get me wrong, I tried. I pitched to both of them previously to try to get them change parties, but I understood why they said no, and I think if I was in their boots, I might have made the same decision that they made. So, but yeah, it's an interesting one to watch. Banking on Lambie to vote the way you want, it's like trying to jumpstart a car with a dead battery. Sometimes it will, sometimes it won't. Why would you jumpstart a car with a dead battery? That's I was saying change it from the inside. We change it from the outside, but once we force it to change, there needs to be someone in there who is not totally retarded. But yes, I love the meme as much as everyone. I've said it as much as anyone else, right? If you don't like Al Qaeda, join them and change them from the inside, right? Yes, I know it's not likely to work. I don't think he's going to change them from the inside, but if we change them from the outside, we'd want a good person on the inside as our ally. We need a sleeper cell. That's what we have. We're putting sleeper cells inside the coalition, so that when we sort of set off the dirty bomb, they're there to. I've lost my analogy. I don't know how a dirty bomb helps that analogy, but yeah, anyway, that's the pitch. I heard that at least your mum loves you, so that's right. You've got a solid vote potentially in the making there. Although I don't know if she'll vote for you, but that's another question. The swear word faction of the Liberals. All right, we're not doing inside baseball here. That's what people always say about the women in their lives. But okay, good luck to your Liberty tyrant. Anyway, we've got caught up in random bants here, and now this has gone up to 2 hours. So I I think I think we managed to get through most of what I wanted to get through running through. So just if you hadn't seen it before, think about it this way: with each of your states, they got six people elected each time, and just think of it normally. It's nominally three right, three left. If you ever want to be passing legislation, you're going to have to steal one of the other side's Senate spots, right? So something like this, Queensland could potentially get. Well, in this scenario, sorry, Rennick, I'm taking your seat away. Just makes it easier to do the maths here. Um, three Liberal, Malcolm Roberts, One Nation, Labor, Green. That sort of thing has to happen somewhere if you want to eventually pass your legislation. And potentially in Tassie if we got here. Yeah, I think One Nation might struggle to pick up Tassie after all. I'm sorry, South Australia might struggle to pick up South Australia. So think of it this way: three left wing seats, three right wing seats, and where you can steal. So you're either got the minor right competing with your Liberals, who's going to pick up the third right wing seat, or you've got, can one of those right wing parties steal a left wing seat, or as happened last time, can one of these left wing parties steal a right wing seat? So that's the way to think of it. And then the other takeaway from this to keep in mind, which I don't think, it doesn't seem like anyone from the talking boffins on mainstream news have cottoned onto this yet, but in most of the scenarios we've looked at here, sorry, Jordan, I hope you win, but I'm not plugging that in as my estimate at the moment. Most of the boffins haven't really picked up on the fact that Dutton is not going to be able to pass legislation. Without something going very right, they're going to need everything, right? They're going to need 4 out of 6 of Queensland. They're going to need 3 out of 6 in Tasmania, and then they're going to need to roll Labor in the ACT and not lose anything else. And if they do that, and only if they do that, would they be able to pass legislation only with the support of Jackie Lambie. So I don't know how we can get that through to people. There is no upside. Well, there is an upside. You put Dutton in, and Albanese can't make things worse, right? That's the big upside of putting Dutton in. Maybe we want this. Maybe this gridlocked Senate. The problem is the Senate will still pass stupid things, because if the Liberals come up with a stupid idea, Labor or the Greens will allow them. So we're in for a tough time. This Senate is in for a tough time. The Liberals still haven't worked out the terrible situation they're in with their Senate. And maybe in 3 years' time, it's going to be workable, withable. And hopefully we have some good minor right crossbench senators in there that can hold the government to account. But this time around, it's not looking pretty. Anyway, I've ranted long enough. It has gone for long enough, and I've been forcing you to stare at my beautifully ugly Excel spreadsheet for long enough. Do you think the Liberals will ever realise that the minor party most likely to win a left-wing seat is the Libertarians? I'm not even sure that's true. I mean, it depends on the seat, right? There's a more fundamental thing they have to realise, and that is a minor right party. They need a minor right party. I mean, it's so self-evident. I mean, as Clinton was saying, it's been self-evident for 10 years. You just have to be able to add up and, sort of count past 3 and think things through for more than a minute. So it's a very obvious truism of our political system that they need a minor right party to be able, if they're ever going to pass legislation. I don't think they've worked that part out yet. They're still just instinctively hostile to all the minor right parties. And I think the Libertarians make a lot of sense to be their sort of partner of choice in the minor right. Of course, I'm saying that with some bias, as a lot of people watching would know. I've got a history with the Libertarians. I'm not here on a Libertarian podcast. I'm here at I don't know which, there's an ATA banner somewhere up there. I'm here with the Australian Taxpayers Alliance. That's the hat I have on now. That's what the front. We're doing live streams twice a week. Tune in 8:30 Sydney time, Monday and Thursday. Normally me and Brian talking banter, begging you to join the ATA, taxpayers.org.au. Go join up, sign up. Liberty Tyrant did it, so he's going to get him on stage to come and embarrass himself. Clinton, go to taxpayers.org.au. Join, become a member. It's only a couple of bucks a month, Clinton. Come on, do it. Melissa, you too. Go on, everyone, join. But that's the pitch. But notwithstanding the fact that I'm here with an ATA hat on, many of you would know that I've got a history with the Libertarians. I think that makes a lot of sense for the Liberals to do. I've seen no evidence yet that the Liberals understand that. I mean, if they decided that they were going to pick a different minor party, at least I'd understand that, but they don't seem to recognize they need any minor party. So I don't know. We will. There are libertarian podcasts. Check out Collectivitis, run by the Victorian guys. Collectivitis. Just put that into X or YouTube, and you'll find them. And there are other libertarian podcasts. And look, realistically, I still speak libertarian when I'm here. Just because I'm wearing the ATA hat doesn't mean my philosophy changes. Yeah, that's the problem. A lot of them don't, right? A lot of them just want to make sure they can win in the lower house, which is frustrating. But I mean, Labor can work it out. How is it the Labor boffins can see the relevance of being able to control votes in the Senate? I mean, I think the Liberals are going to get it eventually. I still think they just haven't done the maths, and they're living under the delusion if they just sing Kumbaya and sort of dance with a pretty dress on, then somehow magically the Senate will work in their favor. And after it doesn't work in their favor for about 14 times in a row, I imagine the first Liberal will wake up and go, maybe I will see if I can count to 39. I wonder what happens if I can count to 39. And they'll go, oh, we need a minor party. And there'll be this light going off on top of their head, and then finally it'll happen. So yeah, most of them don't care, but surely someone's got to care. It's better to have it than not. It just seems bizarre to not care about it at all. Yeah, they say the same thing about you, you bastard. Oh, those guys running Collectivitis are good crack. You should listen to them. They're good people. Anyway, I already gave my pitch accidentally before. Go to taxpayers.org.au. Sign up, become a member, check out the website, sign up to our petitions and whatever campaigns we have going. So you can get politicians to sign our free speech pledge, and tune in again next time, Mondays and Thursdays, 8:30 Sydney time. I'll normally have Brian here to be able to tell me when I'm being too annoying or shut me up or give some anecdotes. We won't do things quite as boffiny as this normally. Normally we'll dive into the fun topics of the day. But thank you for those who've stuck with me till now. And I'll be tuning off. I'm John Humphreys. I'll see you on Thursday.